Okay, so now we are back to the first version that we created, the perfect new version, and it's time to add some dust onto that one. To add dust, well, we start with looking at our reference images to find something that is almost new. Doesn't look almost new, but we have that. We can take this one as well, just to look it. And we can see that all the dust or the grunge here is placed on top of things. So if I go a bit closer, you can see it's on top here and here, same here, of course on the top here as well, and it's collected here on the top and also here. So everything that is pointed upwards, even on the metal here, is then something that collects things like dust. And I believe it's the same if we look at the other one that I collected here. So you can see also on the top here and here, also here, nothing here. So everything that comes from above, even under this glass here, it will collect a lot of dust. So we can think of what I've taught before, how we should reach that, and the best way to do it is to use the normal. So I will use Shift A, input, and the texture coordinate, and then we have the normal. And when we then separate the Z-axis, we will get everything from the top here. So I will press Shift A, converter, and separate X, Y, Z. So I select that one and connect it to the normal here. And now I can just drag from the Z directly to the surface, and then we can see the mask here. And it looks like it's been snowing. It's very even and it's very thick, exactly where we would like to have the dust. But it's too much, it's too even, and we have to do something about it. To do that, I believe that you might got some brain freeze now, because you have no clue. At least I have not told you how to do it. So what we have to do here is to try to get some distortion into it. So to make distortion, we need to know what is white and what is black. And white is 1 and black is 0. So we need to take away some of the white, meaning that we need to subtract it with something. So we add a subtract here, pressing Shift A, converter, and a math, and we can change that math into subtract. And now you can see if I put a higher value here, I take it away, and if I add, you get a really bright image here. Now you can see it's really shining. It's like an emission. You really get light from this. To prevent going from a higher value than 1 and to low value, like a negative value, so if you don't want those, then you just press the clamp here, and that is what we should do in this case. Now the output will always be something between 0 and 1, regardless what we put in here. So if I put in a high value, I will subtract with the high value and get 1. Oh, sorry, 0 out here. And if I put in a low value, then I will get 1 out here. So now we just need to have something that gives different numbers in here directly to make this uneven. So we can use a noise texture for that. So I press Shift A, texture, and a noise texture, and put it in here, put that to the value here, and directly right now you can see some variations. I use the object output to the noise to get it more even, and now you can't see, perhaps you can, because it's a little bit more dark here than it's here, but it's hard to see. So what we need to do now is to strengthen the output here so we get more contrast in here. And an easy way to do that is to add a multiply here. So I can just use this one, pressing Shift D, put it here and change it to multiply. And if I now change the value here, you can see that we get a higher contrast between the white and the black. So all we need to do now is to make it uneven. We will not make it repetitive, and it should be subtle. So we need to change all these parameters to get it exactly as we want to. So we can increase perhaps the scale a bit, also increase the detail, but not too much, and then perhaps increase the roughness. And now we only have dust on a few places here, so it might be too much, and then we just decrease the value here so we get it as we want to. And now we get something that is okay. Could be that it's still a bit even here, so we can take down the scale even more to make it more uneven, but perhaps keep the detail to something like this. And that is mostly to experiment until you find something that works for you. And you should not have like completely black, because if you have completely black, then you don't have any dust at all. So some type of grayscale that we put in here, but still take away parts, and those parts can of course be black because we don't want anything, but we don't want black here. But if it's black on the edges here, that's just good, because that means that we now have an uneven placement of all the dust here. So perhaps something like this. You can of course play with this as much as you want to just find what you think is okay when it comes to these values here. So, but now we have something that distort the dust. And the next step is to create the dust particles, because this is just a mask to place the dust, and then we need to do the dust particles as well. Dust particles are small clumps with some spreading around them. We can do that in several ways. One way will be just to combine two different noises in a good way, and I will do that. So I will disconnect the mask here, and now we will just concentrate on the dust particles. So I press Shift A, a texture, and put in a noise texture. Then I will use another type of noise. I will use the musgrave. So I press Shift A, texture, and a musgrave texture. And we connect that with a texture coordinate. So Shift A, input, texture coordinate, object, object. And now we need to combine these. And here's a new thing that you can learn, and that is that you can use color mix with different types of modes here. So if I press Shift A, color, and mix RGB, you normally just get this mix here, but you also have a lot of other stuff to select from. And a linear light is really good to use, because that will be like a filter that will say that this will have the majority of the pattern, or this will have the majority of the pattern, and the other will then fade away. And it's really, really good to use. And you can see how it looks when I go from here and here, and then just connect that out to our material output here. So if I just put that very, very close, you can see how it looks. If I now take up the noise scale really much, because now we are talking about dust particles, so they are tiny, tiny, tiny things with a lot of scale, a lot of detail, and high roughness. So now you get all the small, small dust particles here in the edges. If I now take the linear light to 0, then the noise will take over completely. So you will only have these very, very small particles. If I take it to 1, then we have almost just the musgrave texture that control everything. So we can put a value like, I don't know, around here somewhere with some detail and perhaps some dimension. Not too much, but perhaps something like this. So this would be like the places where the dust will be concentrated. However, now it's way too high contrast. And then we just change this linear light here. And you see when I change it, more and more of the noise are growing on the edges here. So we get more and more out like this, and now we have it spread in this way here. So here we can create good looking dust by just changing this a little. We can of course play with this scale as well to get the dust exactly as we want to, if we want that type of dust or that type and so on. Don't use too much of a scale, because now you can see it's, if we go on the distance, it looks very, very repetitive. So that is what we want to avoid. So try to use a low scale here to get an uneven spread of the dust. So more like this in this case. It's always good to go on a distance, so you can see from a far away, does it look okay or does it look fake or repetitive in some way, and then concentrate on trying to do something that works. So this is a good way to do it, and as you can see, you can control it exactly as you want to until you get what you would like to have by just changing the factor of this linear light. Now all we need to do is combine the first mask that tells us where to put the dust with these dust particles. So that we can do with a multiply, because all those places with 0 will not be anything in that case. So all the black will be continue to be black, and then we just add some value on this. So we put the multiply between here and the linear light here, so between here. So Shift A, converter and a math, and I can get a bit closer, and a multiply here, put that into that one, put that into that one, and if I now look at the result, you get something like this. So a tiny amount of dust on different places where it should be dust, and in some places the dust has vanished because we have touched this material. So now we can use that in different ways, but as you can see, it's now rather gray here, because if I multiply a low value with a low value, the result will be even lower. So we can create like a master key here that controls the master strength, the head strength of everything after here. So it's just to combine it with another multiply. So Shift D, put that in here, but now we can control it, so we can increase or decrease how much this dust should be visible on the lantern. So we have like this is the master, so to say. And now it's about to create that in real time, because now it's just the mask. We need to add that into the lantern so it looks nice, and that we can see the dust here. The dust does not look like this color material at all. It's not metallic, it doesn't have gloss, so it's totally filled with roughness and so on. So we should have a completely new material that we work with. So I can press Shift A, go to shader, and we can use a new principle here. And then we need something to mix those two. So this will be our dust, and this will be our color here. And we can change this dust, so the roughness is 1. We can have it to slightly gray color like that. If you want, you can of course put in different types of color here to enhance the feeling even more. But in this case right now, I just put in one single color here. And now we need to mix those two. So we press Shift A, and then I use shader, and a mix shader. So I select the mix shader here. And now the dust is the white part. That means that the color is on the black, and black will then be the top here. So I will put the color on the top, and I will put the dust on the bottom here, so we have it in there. And then it's just for me to combine this using the multiply into this and put everything to the material output here. And then we get this very subtle amount of dust, but we can control it with this master here. So if I drag this up, you can see that we get a very much dust, and if I take it down, we get less of it. However, it's a soft transition between this one and this one, and we still have a lot of reflection here even if we have dust. So we can take that away by adding this value into the roughness here, because if we add that value in here, that will increase and then lower the reflection. So we just press Shift A, and then I add an add into this. So press Math and add, and then I take this value 0.168, put that here. That will be the base. And if we have black, nothing will be changed, but if we have white, then everything will be higher up here, giving less reflection. So then I can just take this one into this, and now we get less reflection on all those places where we have the dust. So it's an easy way to solve that. We can also do so that the color here will change slightly on those places where we put the dust. So we can add a color mix here, pressing Shift A, color and mix RGB, put that in, and use the same value in here to control, so we get some coloring here. And that doesn't have to be like dust color, it can just be like a pale blue grayish thing like that. So then this material here will help the dust material to be visible. And then we also should add just a slight amount of bumps so we can distinguish this shader from this shader. So then I press Shift A, converter, and it will be vector bump here, put that to normal, and we can take the value as we've done with everything else into the height here, and then it can be a bit too much, so we can just take it down with, I can get closer here, take down that a bit, take down that a bit, so we have it like that. So now we have a lot of stuff in here, and we can then, as I said before, control it with this here to decide how much dust we would like to have in here. So that is how we add the dust into it. And what we can do now is that I can see that it's still shining, and I was thinking of why it does that, and I think it's about this clear coat here. So we do the same with the clear coat, that I add the value from the multiply into the clear coat here, but now we want it reversed, because we would like to have clear coat where we don't have any dust. So then we would like that to be 1, but when we have dust, then we don't want any clear coat. So what we will do here is an invert. So I press Shift A, color, and an invert, and put that in here. So now we get clear coat when we don't have any dust, but we lose the clear coat when we have the dust in. So it will help as well. So then we have put that in here, and now we have all the pieces in place, and we can play with it to control how we would like to have everything. Now it's time for us to make a node group out of this, so we can easily change those values that should be easily changed, so we're not touching everything here, and also so it will be easier to copy into both the glass and also the metal. So first of all, we can use this part here as a separate part. That will be the dust particles. So I just select these four, and then I press Ctrl G to select it here, and in the group input I can put the factor here, and we can call it the clump value. So take that one, go to node here, select the factor, and change that to clump value. So then we have that, and we can then press tab to go out, and in this we can change the name to dust particles. So now we have that in, and if we change the clump value here, you can see that it works already very easily to clump it or to make more dust out of it. So that we can control it how we would like to have it. More clump value. Now everything is spread here. You can take up the multiply so you really can see how it works. So here we have it like this, and now it's more in small pieces. So we have one here, we have one here, and so on. So here we can control how we would like to have that. So dust particles are now ready. And then we need to do the dust mask. And the dust mask, it's this part where we get the normal out and then subtract it with the noise texture here. So then we can take this part here and press Ctrl G, and what we would like to control in this case is the strength of the noise. So then we take that out, and we can call that value for noise strength, perhaps like that. So then we have that out, and the value here will be a mask value. So we can go to group output and select value here and call that mask value. So then we know it's mask value. Go back and call the node group for dust mask. So then we have those two. And 3 combined here together with this one that we can lower a bit will be the complete dust that we add. So we can take all these and press Ctrl G, and then I will just continue with the noise strength to the group input, and the same with the clump value, and we will also add the master strength here. So we can call that master strength like that, and then we just press tab again, and now I can call this dust. So all the nodes we did previously are now collected into this dust here. Then we of course have all these stuff that we put in to control the roughness and so on, but I think we should leave that outside because that could be very different on different materials here. But this is a good way to start with it. We can then increase or decrease the noise strength. We can play with the master strength here. We can change the clump value to add more or less into this. So if I now go up here and I would like to have a lot of this, then I change this master strength to high, and I take down the noise strength. Perhaps it should be the other way around on this one, because now we have a high noise strength will give a low amount of dust. And yes, it's okay, but it's not logical to think in this way. We can change the name later on or keep it, but now you know how it works anyway. And then we have the master strength here. So a low amount, you have a little amount of dust, and with a higher amount then you get more dust. And then we have the clump value. There you can see that we clump everything together when we have a high value here, and with a low value you get less clumping and more even spread here. So we can, by playing with these two, so we get a good value like that, and perhaps something like this, and a little less of the master strength, and now we have a small amount of dust everywhere. And then it's just to take this node and copy it to the glass and to the metal. So we can select the glass here, and now we have the nodes for the glass, and we can then just add another mix shader here to add some dust into this. So we can take this and just press Shift D and put it here, and put principle here, so Shift A, and then we go to shader and put in principled like that, put that into here. We will not have any roughness. We can keep it to completely white on the glass. We can have a small gray like that. Other than that, we should have, no, we can just keep it like this. And now we need to control it, so we can then have all the glass, and there we have all the dust, and we just add the group here. So I press Shift A, go to group, and here we have the one that I call dust. So we just put that in, take the value here, put that in here, and now we can get some dust on the top here as well. So it's really easy to work with, and there you can, as we did before, change the master strength. If we would like to have a lot of dust, we can lower it like this if we want to. And then we can do the same with the metal. So then we select one of the metals here, and we do a shader, a mix there as well. So Shift A, shader, and a mix shader. Put in a new principle, so Shift A, shader, and there we have the principle, and it should have no roughness, or it should have maximum roughness, no reflection. And then we control it by using the group here. So dust into that, and then we have the value here, and then we can play with that as well. And all the other nodes for roughness and so on to make an even transform from metal to dust that you can add if you want to, by just putting that here and then start to add for roughness and so on. But I will not do it right now, for it will not be noticed so much on the metal and on the glass. It's mostly on the color here where we have a lot of reflection, a lot of colors and so on, where we need all those extra stuff to make it work. So now we have everything in, and it's just for us to render it, and we can then check the result. I will just do that quick render before I end this session so you can see how it looks. And here the render is finished, and we can see the dust on it. And you can see it's right now unevenly spread, but on the right places. So we have something here, something is here, and a lot of stuff is here as well. Could be that I use the key master strength a little bit much, because I think we have too much of dust here. But since we now have a node group, it's just for you to decrease it or increase it as you fit, to make it exactly as you want to. But it really looks nice here, where we can see that it's collected in a good way. So now we have all the dust in place, and then the next step will be the dirt. And it's not exactly the same as dust, because Dirt is more all the things that we get from the fingers when we put that, or the lantern gets from the fingers when we put the fingers on the lantern. It's oil from the refuel, and it's all of that stuff. So it's also a bit darker, a bit more sticky to the lantern and so on. But we will see more on that in the next session. So now we have all the dust in, and the next session will be all the dirt. See you there, and bye for now.